Hey everybody, I'm on my way up to the surgical hospital to get some blood work done and a COVID test. I'm vaccinated and I've studied, so I'm pretty sure I'll pass. I want to just give I hate to say reminder, but just kind of sort of put this in the back of your head with the Derek Chauvin trial going on. If you don't know, the whole George Floyd thing, knee on the neck, wrongful death from a police officer. Cop killed a black man with his knee on his neck. That whole fiasco. Because I'm seeing and hearing a lot of this stuff already. So I want to give you guys some sanity advice, okay? Because as the internet will do, it's splitting at its best. And remember, splitting is never good, okay? So there's people that are saying that he's guilty, and there's people that are saying he's not guilty. And as with all things reality, it's never that simple. It really isn't. And this case is set to be one of those not so simple ones. And here is why. Life is full of gray areas, unfortunately. And the law can do its best to address all these shades of gray. But at the end of the day, the law cannot possibly address every single situation. And this case is shaping up to be one of those cases. So they've levied several different charges against Derek Chauvin. And the reason for that is because none of the charges fit very well. They just don't. Because there's a lot of uniqueness to the situation. And there's a lot of watershed familiarity to it at the same time. So it's a phenomenon that we're all too familiar with. A white police officer kills a black man in a very, very questionable manner, at least on the surface. And I'll say alleged, okay? Because things aren't always how they appear to be on the surface. And we are finding that out more and more every day as new evidence comes out. So, for every day this trial goes by, for those of us who are tracking it and following it, it's starting to push more towards the middle and towards uncertainty. And it's not that the uncertainties around what happened. It's on video. We know exactly what happened on the video. However, the problem comes on a technicality, and that is when you are convicting somebody of murder, you have to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. So you have a set list of very, very specific criteria that must be met in order to deprive a citizen of their rights to life, liberty, pursuit, and happiness, right? So that's due process. So it has to be very specific on the higher charges. So the higher the charge, in other words, like from third degree murder, second degree, first degree, those are increasing, right? And so as you increase the charge, the specificity is also increased. So if you're going to convict somebody of, let's say, first degree murder, there are very, very specific things that must be met beyond a reasonable doubt. Which means if there's reasonable doubt, then they're not guilty. Okay? And that's why we say not guilty. It's different than saying innocent. You're saying they are not guilty of this specific charge. Okay? And that's a problem. If the charges are too high, they may not be guilty of a higher crime. On the other hand, as you go down into the lower level charges, then they become less specific. There's more ambiguous language. So the likelihood of convicting goes up. The problem is the conviction and the sentencing goes down. And so then you end up with some nightmare scenario of, well, okay, they found him guilty of this lesser charge and he's got like 6 months probation, right? Well, that's infuriating. So what the prosecution is doing is they're bringing a whole spectrum of charges in hopes that the jury can find one that fits closely enough. So that's the reality of this situation. The higher charges, the ones that we all want to stick, may very well not stick because there is reasonable doubt in the evidence. We're seeing this already. So, and there's all kinds of videos out there with legal analysis, and I'm not here to get into that. I'm here to help everybody keep their sanity, because what's going to happen is the jury is going to be facing a very, very difficult task, and that is the weight of their decision is not only relevant to the Derek Chauvin case, it's relevant to the case of the other officers, and not just the other officers, but it also sets precedent moving forward. So this case affects many, many future cases. And so the juries have to be very, very, very careful about how they choose to convict and how they choose to find him not guilty or guilty. Because you have to consider this situation today, but in the future, you might very well be the reason that a reasonable police officer gets put in jail for something that happens, that unfolds in a completely different manner. But now that charge and that charge's precedent has been altered. And so in the future, you might end up, your decision now for Derek Chauvin might put a good police officer in jail in the future. And not even just a good police officer. It could be somebody who defended themselves or defended their family. There's all kinds of scenarios that these things can apply to. And that's one reason why they have that language in there that says beyond reasonable doubt. So you can't just be like, yeah, that's kind of that's kind of questionable, but you know what, he's still guilty. You can't do that as a jury member. You can't. It has to say, yeah, there's absolutely no doubt in my mind. Well, what about this? Yeah, no doubt. What about this? Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's evident that he held him down and crushed his neck wanting to kill him. Period, right? And like I said before, it's easy to be on the sidelines, especially through the safety of our phones. But if you watch these witnesses, and if you watch the court happenings as they unfold, it's just not so cut and dry. And one thing is apparently obvious: there is so much battle weariness on the part of all these witnesses, of everybody who's been involved in this case. They are all just physically and emotionally drained coming into the beginning of the trial. So this has been a huge ordeal for everyone. And if it was such an easy case, that we wouldn't be seeing this, right? So even just before the show ever even started, these people are weary and exhausted. And so that shows that this is no easy case. This is not open and shut. So, yeah. Keep that in mind, that whatever your predisposition is coming into this, there's a good chance, it's almost inevitable, the results aren't going to be what you thought they would be. And it's going to be that way for a lot of people. Because if he's found guilty, there's going to be riots and there's going to be discontent in the streets. And if he's found not guilty, there's also going to be riots. So there's going to be there's going to be fallout no matter what this jury chooses. There's not a charge that fits this that everybody can look at and say, hey, yeah, okay, yeah, I can see that. No, not happening in this country, because you can't please everybody all the time, and all those people live in America, unfortunately. So just remember that. I'm following the case as best as I can. It's not my sole focus, because I've got surgery coming up, but I follow it fairly closely. As new things emerge, I review them, and it's just it's not gonna be what everybody thinks it's going to be. He's not going to be acquitted, but he's not going to be convicted of murder, I don't think. It's going to be a real uphill battle to get a murder conviction. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to fall in the realm of manslaughter to involuntary manslaughter, which basically means, oops, he died, but it's not because I wanted him to die. So I think it's going to head that direction. But I'm not a jury member, and the trial's far from over. Just saying, that's how it's looking right now. So just prepare yourself. You know, everybody is backed up into their corners, ready to fight. Neither corner is going to get their way. And so both sides are going to be upset by this, I think. I think the problem is actually going to be worse than if he were just to be convicted of murder and be done. Right? Convict him of murder, then you've got half the people upset and half the people happy. But I think it's going to fall in the category that pisses everybody off. So just keep that in mind, and understand it's because the jury has a very, very specific job to do. They have to put their feelings about it aside. It's a non-feeling issue. Okay? They're going to have to put their feelings about it aside and make objective, rational decisions. So, be ready. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, comment, or share, and I'll see y'all on the next video.